Maybe the reminder you needed was also the reminder I needed. I'm not speaking from a place of perfection. I'm speaking from a place of trying to return to Allah too. Assalamu Alaikum, beautiful souls. Welcome back to another episode of Homecoming to Ya Rabb. And if you have been enjoying these conversations, do check out the full playlist on my channel. Okay, so today I'm going to say something that feels a little uncomfortable. Sometimes the videos I make are not for you, they are for me. Sometimes the reminder I am sharing is a reminder I am desperately trying to hold on to myself. Sometimes the lesson I am talking about is a lesson I am still learning. Sometimes the words coming out of my mouth are words I needed to hear that very morning. And I think that's why I've never really liked the idea that the people who remind others about Allah or Deen must somehow have everything figured out. Because if that were true, I probably wouldn't be sitting here making this video. The truth is, there have been days when I have spoken about hope while struggling to hold on to my own. There have been days when I have spoken about healing while actively working through things I haven't fully healed from. There have been days when I have reminded people to turn back to Allah while trying to strengthen my own relationship with Him. For a long time, I wasn't sure what to do with that. Part of me felt like I should stay quiet until I had everything figured out, until I become more consistent, more disciplined, more healed, and more certain. But the older I get, the more I realize that if we all waited until we were perfect before speaking about anything good, most of us would never speak at all. Because life doesn't work like that. Most of us are learning while living. We are understanding things while trying to practice them. We are trying to become better while still carrying parts of ourselves that need work. And I think we forget that when we look at other people, especially online. We see someone sharing reminders, speaking about faith, talking about healing, growth, discipline, or self improvement, and without realizing it, we start imagining that they have already arrived somewhere. We assume they have reached a place we are still trying to get to. But what if that's not true? What if the person speaking about healing is still healing themselves? What if the person talking about hope is fighting hard not to lose their own? What if the person reminding people to pray is also struggling with consistency? What if the person reminding people to return to Allah is trying to return themselves? I don't think we talk about this enough. Maybe because we are afraid people will think we are being hypocritical. Or maybe because we have convinced ourselves that struggle somehow disqualifies us from speaking about what is good. But I have been thinking about this a lot lately, and I think there's a very important difference between hypocrisy and struggle. A hypocrite pretends to care about something they don't actually care about. A struggling person cares deeply about something and keeps falling short of it. Those are not the same thing. The person who misses a prayer and feels guilty about it is not the same as the person who doesn't care whether they pray at all. The person who is trying to control their anger and occasionally fails is not the same as the person who sees nothing wrong with hurting people. And the other person who keeps returning after falling is not the same as the person who has stopped trying altogether. I think many sincere people carry a burden they were never meant to carry. Somewhere along the way, they start believing that their struggles make them less worthy, less qualified, or less deserving of being heard. So instead of sharing what they have learned, they stay quiet. Not because they have nothing valuable to say, but because they feel they haven't earned the right to say it yet. And the problem is that healing doesn't work like that. Faith doesn't work like that. And growth doesn't work like that too. Imagine if nobody spoke about patience until they had mastered patience, or nobody spoke about kindness until they had become perfectly kind, or nobody spoke about tawakkul until they had completely eliminated fear from their life. We would lose so many beautiful reminders. Because most meaningful reminders don't come from the people who have achieved everything, who have arrived. They come from people who are still walking, who are still struggling, people who have learned enough to share something useful even if they haven't learned everything. And I think that's how human beings have always learned from one another, not through perfection but through sincerity. When someone shares a reminder while standing on a mountain looking down at everyone else, it rarely touches the heart. But when someone shares a reminder while standing beside you and saying, I am trying to, something feels different about that. It feels human and real. And maybe that's why some of the reminders that stay with us the longest are not necessarily the most eloquent ones. They are the honest ones, the ones that makes us feel less alone and remind us that struggling is not proof that we are failing. It's proof that we are human. One thing I have noticed is that many people don't actually lose hope in Allah. They lose hope in themselves. They believe Allah is merciful, they believe Allah forgives, they believe Allah accepts repentance. But when it comes to their own life, they quietly start believing that maybe they have messed up too many times. Maybe they have wasted too many opportunities, or they should be further along by now. Maybe they are never going to change. And wallahi, that's such a painful place to be. Because now you're not only carrying the mistake, you're also carrying the hopelessness that follows it. And hopelessness is heavy. It makes every step feel harder, every effort feel pointless, and every step back feel like proof that nothing is changing. But one of the most beautiful things I have learned about our relationship with Allah is that Allah never asks us to carry tomorrow's burden today. He asks us to return, not next year, not after we have fixed ourselves, not after we have become worthy. He asks us to return as we are. Just return. And that's difficult for many of us to accept because we like earning things. We like feeling qualified. We like feeling prepared. But Allah's mercy doesn't work like a job interview. You are not required to present a perfect version of yourself before approaching Him. In fact, some of the most sincere moments in a person's relationship with Allah happen when all the masks finally fall apart. When you are too exhausted to perform, too tired to pretend, and too overwhelmed to explain yourself. And all you can honestly say is, Ya Allah, I'm struggling. That's it. There's no perfect speech or beautifully worded dua. And maybe that's why I wanted to make this video because I think some of you are carrying a version of yourselves that Allah never asked you to carry. A version that has to be perfect all the time, that never struggles, that always gets it right. And because you are comparing yourself to that impossible standard, you keep feeling disappointed in the real version of yourself. The version that's trying, the version that sometimes gets it right and sometimes doesn't. The version that takes a few steps forward and then stumbles. The version that still wants Allah even while struggling with things they wish they could overcome faster. That version of you is not broken. It is human. And maybe that's the lesson I want to leave with you today. Don't wait until you have arrived before appreciating the fact that you're moving. Don't wait until you are perfect before acknowledging your sincerity. And don't assume that your struggle makes your efforts meaningless. Because sometimes the person who keeps returning after every fall is closer to Allah than the person who thinks they have stopped needing Him. Because sometimes the person who keeps returning after every fall is closer to Allah than the person who thinks they have stopped needing Him. The goal was never perfection, it was always to keep returning. So, if you have been feeling disappointed in yourself lately, questioning whether you are making enough progress or feeling tired of your own mistakes, let this be your reminder. You don't have to be perfect to keep going, you don't have to be perfect to return to Allah. And you don't have to be perfect to benefit from a reminder, you simply have to keep returning. Wallahu alam. I'll see you in the next video, inshallah. Until then, take care of your beautiful souls. Assalamu alaikum.